One of the most significant feedbacks I've gotten from people who have read my book, Slow Burn, was from the chapter on selecting a shoe. The shoe fit chapter. Of all the chapters in my book, the shoe fit chapter seemed to have impacted and affected so many people. And I can tell you, a lot of people have come to me to do these amazing evaluation and assessment sessions where we spend time in the metabolic lab, and I'm doing all my physiological calculations and spending the afternoon with them running. And what ends up happening, the one significant change that occurs for them is they change their shoe size. And it's not without a little bit of a history and a story behind it, because the shoe fit is so essential. It's really the one piece of equipment you must take time to get right, because if the equipment's not correct and if you don't have the right shoe fit, you're going to set yourself up for breakdown and injury. It's just very simple. It is the most important piece of equipment a walker and a runner can have, and the shoe fit is essential. Always buy a fit, not a size. Shoe sizes vary from company to company, so you really want to make sure you understand the dynamics and the strategies behind getting the proper shoe fit. For me, it was an awakening, because back in 1985, I was preparing to do a 6-day race at the University of Colorado Fieldhouse. It was a 6-day race, 144 consecutive hours, and I was primo trained for this thing. Nutritionally, I had my trainer, Phil Maffetone. The famous Dr. Phil Maffetone came to visit me in Boulder, Colorado on a number of occasions. We did these 9-hour back-to-back workouts on separate days, and everything was set up. But I broke down. On the last day. I was 96 miles away from my goal of running 100 miles a day for 6 consecutive days. I felt great, my energy was fine, but my feet hurt. And consequential offshoots of that, I had Achilles problems, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And Phil and I went to school on that after the race, and what we discovered after talking to some pedorthists, these people trained to make orthopedic shoes, and podiatrists and orthopedic surgeons that were very intrigued by what I was attempting to do. What we learned from all these people is the significance of the shoe fit and what really was necessary to create an optimal fitting of the shoe. And what we learned was that the energy dispersal, as you hold your body up against gravity and move through time and space, is that the energy flow comes down the spine to the heel out the foot and through the toes. And it's a motion off the feet that you initiate contact with the outside of the heel, the energy moves to the arch of the foot, the arch springs the energy forward, and your toes spread out, your heels lift up off the ground, and your feet slide forward, and the energy comes out your toes. And it's a very natural flowing process. Energy moving from top to bottom, from back to front and out. And the foot needs that movement space to slide forward and spread out, and slide forward. And if you notice that, imagine that my hand is the ground here, and this is my foot. When there's absolute freedom to move, and I call it wiggle room, the flexibility of the foot is very high, and you can feel the energy flow from back to front, and the toes spread out, slide forward, and the energy moves outward. What happens is that if the shoe is too tight from the side or in front, and the foot is encased in a shoe that is putting pressure either on the side or in front, the flexibility is lost, and the energy does not flow out as it would if there was space and wiggle room. And that creates basically what's called a metatarsal jam. It's as if at the end of every step you were kicking a wall, and the energy comes back into your body, collecting in the idiosyncratic spot where the energy gets stuck in your body. It could be your hip, could be your shoulder, neck, could be your back. And what you are doing is you're impeding the energy flow by having shoes that are too short. Phil Maffetone, Dr. Phil, to me, Dr. Phil, talked about the short shoe syndrome. People tended to always opt for the smaller size because they had the same fetish about their feet that they had about their waist size or their weight. The smaller the better. So if given the choice between two sizes, most people end up choosing the smaller one because they're concerned about their feet sliding around or getting blisters from the friction. But truthfully, it doesn't happen. I have my own law. Middleman's law is your foot will expand to fill the area available to it. So what Phil used to suggest to me is go to the store and try on shoes with the size you're normally wearing or typically wearing and increase the size by a size each time. Walk around the store, and when you reach the size that is hysterically too big, as if you're wearing bozo or clown shoes, the proper fit is the size just before that. Now, I don't know if that's the optimal strategy, but I do know there are some simple tips that you can follow to get the shoes to fit well. And I'll explain my shoes in a minute, but I'm going to basically take my shoe off now. Shoes are removable inserts. These inserts go inside the shoe and represent the area inside the shoe box that is available to your foot. It's what's inside the shoe. Number one rule, always buy shoes with removable inserts. That's the number one rule. Now, if you go to a store, you can take the inserts out and place them on the ground, and you can step on the insert, and you can then see the amount of space that you have in the front of the shoe. Ideally, the shoe insert will envelop your foot. And in this case, I have a thumb's width distance from my toe to the front of the shoe. Another way of doing it is simply feeling for the toe. I have another trick. What I like to do is I'll have the person step as if they're in a running motion, and if there's still room with your heel off the ground in your shoe, you're fine because you're not hitting the front of the shoe. So there are a number of techniques that go beyond simple wiggling of your foot, standing on the insert, making sure that you have the space between the toe and the front of the shoe, and making sure that the insert surrounds your foot. That's the best protection you can have. Getting the proper shoe fit, allow the proper dispersal of the energy, the distribution of the energy as you're moving. Let it flow through you and out rather than come back to you because of the metatarsal jamming at the front of the shoe. You know, one final word that addresses the apprehension you might have about wearing shoes that have wiggle room in them, because it's such a, I want to call it an urban myth. It's certainly a running myth, and there'll be many of those we'll address in the course of this program. But again, to quote my dear friend Phil Maffetone, as you get healthier, your feet get bigger. And expect that. As you more evenly distribute your body weight, as you become centered and grounded, your foot will expand because you'll more evenly disperse your body weight through the bottom of your foot. And as I mentioned before, and I'll mention many, many times more, your feet will expand to fill the room that is available to it. Proper fit allows the sliding forward and the spreading out. And when you allow that to happen, you will be taking care of your body and letting the energy flow out of it rather than get stuck in it. And you'll decrease the likelihood of breakdown and increase the likelihood of having a great experience.